Hi everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. My name is Stacy. I'm going to show you kind of a Valentine's Day project, but I think it's just going to end up being more of a romantic project than an actual scream at you Valentine's Day project. I'm going to be using this multi-pieced sign from the Dollar Tree, and I have two of them because I'm thinking I kind of have two different ways I want to do this, and I couldn't decide which one. So I'm going to do the same sign two different ways using the same pad of paper. Now this is a cardstock pad. It was a hot buy at Michael's during the spring, and it's English Rose Garden. Now you can get paper similar to this right now. Just look for something vintage that you like. I like roses and butterflies when I'm going with vintage things. And if there's a little bit of handwriting that's maybe embossed with gold or whatnot, but look at the beautiful paper in this pad, okay? This is going to make some really pretty vintage romantic pieces. And so this is what I have chosen to use for this one sign done two ways. Okay, so I've pulled out some pieces and I've taken off the binding strip. And by that I mean this little strip at the top that they use to glue it into the pad. But when you take these binding strips off, make sure you save them, because this strip up here coordinates with the piece of paper that you're using. And sometimes you just need a little strip of paper that you can break something up with, break up the field of all one thing. So I always save those little strips until I'm done with the project, and then I decide if I want to throw them away or not. So go ahead and tear those off and save it. And pretty much any paper you pull from that pad is going to coordinate with any other piece that you pull from that pad. So I really like the words in here that are embossed in gold. There's hope, and there's love, and there's peace. There's a small faith down here, but it's going to be a little bit too small for what I'm planning on doing. But I do plan on using the love one. And then I also like Happiness Blooms from Within. I love that one. It's not embossed, but it is very vintage looking. And the more vintage you go, the less Valentine it looks, and the more just romantic that it'll look. So here's the pages I've pulled out. I've pulled out this embossed gold handwriting one. I'll probably focus on the butterflies and then have the handwriting as a filler spot. I've also chosen this like cottage rose in pink, and it looks like it's on been done on a wood grain piece. And then this tea stained cottage rose is pretty as well. And then there's a tea stained like wallpaper stripe. I haven't decided for sure which one I'm doing yet. I'm going to let inspiration take over as I go. All right, so those are the papers I've pulled out, and these are the signs I have. I can tell right now that I'm going to have to do something different for the attachment, because blaring bright red ribbon here is not going to work for this. So I'm going to attempt to take these off. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them and then peel off what I can. All right. So what I like to do, you can get handy little scrapers at the Dollar Tree. I don't know where my scraper is. I just scrape over the top of it with a razor blade, get off most of it. I don't try to get off all of it unless I'm painting it. If I'm painting it, then you gotta get off all of it. All right, now the cleanup begins. I usually start by cleaning the glitter as much as I can off of my workspace, and the workspace will have to get cleaned again. Don't think it's done by any means, but I get the big parts up. And you can use a dry paper towel for this or a wet wipe. I like the little moisture that's on the wet wipes. Now I'm going to start with the pieces that didn't have glitter, and I'm going to just wipe them down because they probably got glitter overspray on them. I'm going to wipe each piece. Okay, most of the glitter is done. All right. The next thing I need to do is get my pieces back in, and I need to attach them together for the Mod Podging purposes. And for that, I'm going to use blue tape, blue like painter's tape, and I'm going to turn it upside down and line up my pieces of my heart. Now this one's a bit smaller, and the edges, they rounded the edges on this one, but on none of the others, which is odd. Just go ahead and center them as best you can. And then I'm going to tape them together. Oh, I'll show you this. For my tape, I use one of these big desk dispensers for the bigger rolls, and it's just handy to have masking tape on that. It weighs a ton, so when I pull it, it doesn't like end up everywhere. Now I've got glitter back all over my desk again. All right, so I've got these two together, and the next thing I'm going to do is my paper is heavy enough that I don't feel like I need to paint it first, but if you've got a lightweight paper or a lightly colored paper, you're going to want to paint this white or black. If you're using a calendar page on it, I would do black. It's up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and smear on some Mod Podge. I'll go get those things set up and be back. All right, so I've got my hearts taped together, and I've got them on top of a drip cloth, which is those mats that the window cling stickers come on. And if you watched the last video on my channel, you saw me do the iron-on method of Mod Podge. I was very skeptical about that, but it worked. So I'm going to attempt that same technique, but on these wooden ones. Now, I am going to be very careful this time. On my last video where I was experimenting with it, I was a little thick with my Mod Podge, and it didn't dry in some areas, and that's where I ended up getting some wrinkles. So I'm going to make sure that my edges and my brush strokes and everything are nice and smooth as much as I can possibly do that on this one, because I don't want that puddly wrinkle like I had on my bunny on my how-to video. Okay, so if you didn't catch that video, you can go back and check it. I'll link it at the end of this video. It just gives you some basic tips on how to do the iron-on method. I had never tried it before, and I was skeptical, but it worked. So now I'm going to give it a try on these signs and see if the heat affects the paper on these signs. Make sure you get your edges. All right, now I just need to let these dry so that I can iron on the papers. So I'll come back once it's dry and we can do that. Okay, my Mod Podge is dried, and I decided on one of the hearts that I wanted to have different papers on the different pieces. So I went ahead and took the tape off of the back that I had put on at the beginning for this first one. So I've just kind of fiddled around with it and figured out what I wanted to do. And I've decided that I want to have this vintage stripe going horizontally across the second largest piece. And so I have my iron heated up to the synthetic mode with no steam. My Mod Podge is completely dried. I've put a paper towel down this time to protect my surface a little better. And I'm just going to iron the scrapbook paper on. Like I said on my other video, I have a miniature, a smaller, like handheld, mini rechargeable iron coming that's meant for crafts. But for now, I'm using what I have, which is this full-size one. So I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors and trim this off as close to the edge as I can. I'm not sure how sandpaper is going to work on this technique, so I'm going to start with my scissors, and once I get it all stuck down, we can try to clean up the edge a little bit with sandpaper, or a nail file maybe even would work better. Okay, so this is stuck down pretty well, but it is peeling up on the edges, so that just means I think that I need more heat on that and more pressure. Yeah, a little more heat, a little more pressure is doing the trick. Okay, check your edges, make sure they're staying down, and that is just as smooth can be, not a wrinkle to be found. Okay, I'm going to grab a nail file. Nail files work good for smaller projects, so I'm just going to nail file the edge of this to get any extra paper off, so I have a nice smooth edge. And it's also taking a little bit of the color off of this paper, which is going to add to the vintage look of it. All right, I'm going to hit it with the iron one more time, just in case that sanding bit made it peel up anywhere. Really put some pressure on it, get that heat down into the glue to reactivate it. All right, that piece is done, and I think that looks really pretty. Okay, let's do the other top big piece. So now, if I put my heart back together, it looks like this. I think that looks really pretty and vintage. And then I want to put the word love on it. And so I have this cut apart page. So I'm not quite sure exactly how I want to attach it. So I'm thinking is I'll smear Mod Podge on the back of this piece and let it dry, and then I will iron it on to that and then trim the edges. Okay, so I'm going to put these aside for right now, and I'm going to get my Mod Podge back out. I'm not going to worry about getting all the way to the sides because I'm not going to be attaching it top to bottom. So I don't know if this is going to work or not. I am just trying this, and I'm going to let it dry and see if maybe I can get less wrinkles on it that way. So I've got the Mod Podge on. It's curling up a little bit. That's okay. I think we can get that out with the iron when we go to do that. So I'm going to put this over to the side to dry. And then we'll come back and tackle that after it has time to dry. So let's look at the next heart that I have prepped here. Okay, this one I'm going to leave taped together all in one piece, and I'm going to use this butterfly and roses. I'm trying to get as much of the butterfly on here as possible. Okay, so I'm going to start. Oh, I forgot to put my parchment paper down. I got lucky on that last one. I'm going to put my parchment on this one because of the gold lettering. I could just feel the iron kind of sticking to it. But with the regular paper, it was fine. I don't know how the gold lettering is going to handle the heat. We'll see. All right, it's really chunky over here because if you look at the back, the edges don't line up exactly right. That's because of just the way that it was cut at the factory. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is kind of cut. I'm just going to cut away this rose. Cut out some of this blue. Not worrying about it being too perfect because it's going to have the same blue behind it. So now that I have this stuck down, I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm going to carefully take this tape off first, and then I'm going to cut through it and separate my pieces. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit challenging because this got stuck together really tightly. So I'm slicing the edge where I can see it on both sides. Not pushing super hard. I'm kind of just letting the blade find its space between the pieces. Bending it just a little. Oh, it's coming on unstuck. Okay, back on with the heat. Stick that back down. Okay. Got a little Mod Podge that seeped through. Take your time with this part. Don't rush it. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same here. Okay, so I've got those sanded down. I'm going to hit them with the iron again because they're peeling up a little bit. Okay, you know what? I'm going to put this on a steam setting and see. I'm going to see if steam changes things. Maybe that little bit of moisture will reactivate the Mod Podge. Okay, I've got steam puffing out. Let's see. That feels really good and stuck. Okay, so maybe steam is okay. I don't know if you can see the steam poofing up out of there or not. Woo! That was a little too much steam. It definitely has a different feel after the steam. You can feel the glue. Let's check on that other piece. Is it dry? Okay, this piece is dry for my other set. So I'm going to let these cool off for a few minutes over here. With that steam, they got pretty hot. Okay, so this is going to go in the middle of here. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut fairly closely to the top of the letters of the word love. And I'm just freehanding this. If you don't trust yourself with that, then just go ahead and use a paper trimmer would work. Okay. All right. These feel really sticky. And then I'm going to try to center it. Okay. So that's fairly centered that direction. Yeah, in that direction. Okay, that's where it's centered pretty much. Putting my parchment paper back down. That turned out beautifully. So I got the word love. It's from the same pattern. It's sticking down nicely. Okay. So now we got to put this back together. And I'm going to get rid of my towel for right now. I'm going to turn it over to the back side. I'm just going to put it back together. And then I'm going to draw a line with my pencil. And it's hard to tell if it's completely straight. Nope, get back on there. Okay. So now I've got to put this back together. I've got a big spool of string. It's cotton string. And I want to put a wooden bead in between each section. I do not know what size these beads are. Let's measure. They're about 20 millimeter beads, give or take. They were just part of a kit that I had. All right, so I'm going to, so we're going to need 1, 2, 3 on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and feed 3 beads onto my string. and I'm using all the beads the same size. You can get some beads at Walmart that are like stained brown or whatever if you want more of that vintage look. All right, here comes my trick for beading. Clip your string so you have it nice and clean, and then take a dot of liquid glue. It can be wood glue, it can be craft glue, it can be Elmer's glue, just any glue that's a liquid that you can put on your finger. And roll the end of that string in between your fingers with the glue. That's going to attach all of the fibers of the string together. Make sure when you roll it and twist it that you're rolling with the twist that's already there in the string. Give it a second to dry, and then you've got a nice stiff piece of string to thread onto your beads, and then the string doesn't come apart on you like it likes to do. All right, I'm going to use blue tape to tape this back together like it was with the brown tape from the Dollar Tree. We are going to cover the back of this with some paper, so the blue tape's okay. Then I'm going to put one bead in between. And I'm wondering if these might be too big. Let's flip it over and take a look. So if I put that there and that there, it leaves that much space in between. I don't know, I kind of like it. I'm going to go with it. So I'm going to push this bead all the way against the edge, and I'm going to put tape all the way along here to keep the bead and the string, pulling the string across the line I drew and taping it down to that line. Okay, there's a little bit that needs trimmed out so it doesn't show on the other side. Okay, now I'm going to do the same with the next piece. So now I need to figure out how big of a hanger I want and kind of eyeball where I want my things to be. I think a hanger of that size looks good. So I'm going to cut a little extra string, and I'm going to put a little mark on my string, and then I need to put the little glue end onto this end of the string. Whoa, that's a lot of glue. Don't need that much. Roll the string in the glue. Let it dry for a second while I get the glue off my fingers. And now I'm going to get some beads and string them on. I'm going to start with 8 and see how that looks. When you're doing a hanger, you want to make sure you use an even amount of beads so that the hanger piece can go right in between two beads. And you want to leave a little bit of slack in it so that the beads can move around to make room for the nail or whatever it is you're hanging on. That's 6, 7, 8. Okay, and I'm going to feed them all the way down. 8's not quite enough. Let's do 4 more. Haven't quite made it to my mark on my string yet. I'm going to do 2 and move those down and see how we are. The mark on my string is right there, so I'm going to go ahead and add 2 more. So I'm going to be using 12 beads total as my hanger. Yeah, 12 on the hanger, and that gets me right just past what I had already selected. And I'm going to leave a little bit of slack before I take down the string right on that line that I drew. Okay. Then I'm going to feed another string or another bead on and let it sit between these two. Pull it a little bit snug. Don't worry about if it doesn't look like it's lining up perfectly. Trust that you made your line right at the beginning, because right now everything's in a state of flux where it's moving around. So trust that line that you drew, because when you drew it, it was solid. Okay. Trust it. This one's hard because there's not a lot of taping surface. Okay. Now I can trim off the excess. Make sure that's, and turn that around. Okay. There's the first project, and that's all I'm going to do to this one. I could, put some lace on it and whatever else, but I'm not going to. Okay. This one, I like it being a little bit simple like that. Okay. If you don't want to see the blue tape on the back, just decoupage some more paper over the top, or cover it with washi tape, or paint it over the top of the tape, whatever makes you feel better about it. I'll probably just put some craft paper on it with glue, kind of some crinkled up craft paper. I probably won't do that on camera though. It's just going to be the brown paper you wrap stuff in, crinkle it up, Mod Podge it on, and let it dry. And then this one will be done, and if I want to put it in my craft booth, I can do that. Okay, so there's this sign done one way. Put it to the side, and now this one. Okay, I'm trying to decide if I want to put it together the same way I did the other one, and I'm thinking this one I might make a little more solid with like a popsicle stick. I'm going to let my glue gun get heating up here, but I need to address this. So I'm going to put this back over, and I'm going to tape it back together. Just the bottom 2 pieces. Not quite as tightly this time as I did last time. And I need to decide how I want to handle this. What I'm going to do is Mod Podge the back of this, like I did the love on the other one. Okay, I need to let this dry so that I can take my glue or my heat gun and dry this more quickly. Okay, and then I'm going to position this. See, I left the writing on, so I want to make sure that my writing is straight I'm going to grab my parchment paper and my iron, which is still, is it still on? Yeah, it's still on. And I'm going to stick this down and let it cool for a second. Grab my razor blade. Actually, I'm going to grab my scissors first. I'm going to trim as close as I can to the edge. And then I have to carefully trim the roses. Okay. Then I can take this tape off. I can grab my nail file. I'm going to hit it with the heat one more time. Really pressing on my edges. And there we go. That is all ready to go. So now I have butterflies and roses on the bottom, and I have butterflies on the top. I'm going to grab out 6. These are mini cross sticks. I got them at Walmart. There's 150 in a pack. I want to say that they were about $4, which is kind of silly. The smaller things get, the more expensive they are, which is crazy. Then I'm going to flip my heart over like I did the last one and line it up. And then I'm going to grab my ruler like I did before. I'm going to come in a little farther this time. And I'm going to draw a line. Ooh! And then I'm going to use a Jenga block as my spacer, making sure that my lines line up. I'm going to put glue on my line. And center my stick on the line. Making sure to keep that spacer tight. Center the stick. Okay. Now this is going to give me more of a sturdy. This is going to give me more of a sturdy sign instead of a flexible one. And I'm okay with that natural stick showing through. But that's how it's looking so far with the space. You don't want too big of a space. Okay, line up your lines, put your spacer in, get your stick ready. And if you're a little nervous about the bigger pieces staying straight, put a spacer on both ends. Some glue on both sides. You don't need a ton of glue. Center the stick. Press it down. So I'm centering the rounded edge of the stick on the line. That way, in theory, all of my sticks will be nice and straight when I'm all done. Okay. So now I've got 2 straight lines of sticks, and I flip it over, and I have a nice sturdy sign, evenly spaced. Okay, they line up, but there's a gap there. It's just the way it has to be. Then I have this Happiness Blooms from Within cut out or cut apart. I was kind of thinking of using. So I'm going to start by cutting it out, but I also like this butterfly, so I'm going to also cut that out. And I was kind of thinking making this a pocket might be kind of fun. I kind of want to come up above the flowers. Okay, I like it right there. So I'm going to get my pencil, and I'm going to put a little line right where I need the bottom corners to go. And then just put a little tick mark on there where it is not going to need glue. Now, I can use hot glue, but I'm actually thinking I might want to use my Aliens glue, my tacky glue. And just going to put a little bead of it along the edge, but not the top edge, so make sure you get the right edge. This will be a little more forgiving than the hot glue if I don't get it placed exactly right on the very first try. So okay, we'll let that dry. And I'm going to go grab some ribbons for the jumbo. Okay, I have an assortment of laces and some ribbons, and I wanted to show you this. There's 2 different packages I've seen it come in. I got these at Hobby Lobby, and they're $1.99. And yes, I did find these post-pandemic, so I got these probably in December. But it's the Ribbon Boutique, and this one says Ribbon Sachet. Not sure which one is the most current. I think it's this one, because I think I've seen this one before. But what it is 5 assorted strips of ribbons, and they're each 2 yards each. Okay, they used to be 3 yards each, but now they're 2 yards each. But all of that ribbon for only $1.99, and you can see that it's a variety. Quite a big variety pack, and if you just kind of look through them, you can see the different ribbons that are in them. So I've got all these wonderful ribbons. Ooh, I needed some more of that. All these great ribbons in there, and there's almost always some gingham of some color or other, and then there's usually some of this crunchy paper ribbon. It's not paper, but it feels like paper. I don't really like that stuff, but for $1.99, I think these are still a pretty good deal. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can find lace in these. This one's got some nice satin ribbon in it. Oh, look at the hearts. Where's the hearts? I like that. I think I'm going to pull that out. Didn't even see that one showing on the front. Michael's also has ribbon, not in a bag. It's just bundled up like a little tassel kind of a situation. And you can get a variety of ribbons, but it's not $1.99. They're a little more expensive there. And then I have this cording, which I'm pulling out. And usually I take the time to put these on a spool of some sort. Wow, look at that one. That's thick. That's a very wide ribbon. That's huge. And there's some really bright orange. That'll be good for Halloween. Okay, so that's just some of the different ribbons that are available in those variety pack bags from Hobby Lobby. Now, I love this little heart-shaped one, and we're going to go for a shabby chic look. So I'm going to start with the base of a burlap ribbon. And I'm just going to kind of figure out how wide I need the bow to be just by hanging it over the edge of my sign. And I'm just cutting this kind of randomly, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 9 inches long. And then I'm going to just fill my ends. And I'm going to cut 2 of those, actually, just so I have a nice sturdy base to work my bow on. Because when you're working with lace, sometimes it gets a little loosey-goosey. All right, so I'm going to layer up my ribbons, kind of crisscrossing them. Hey, I have an iron here. I can iron them out. If they're curling up, use your iron. It's handy. All right, and I have a half or a third of a pipe cleaner ready to go to be my tie in the middle. And then I'm going to use my next whitest, which is going to be this cute little heart ribbon. And I'm just going to angle this one. And I'm going to put 2 lengths of that in here. It'll tie in the blue of the paper. Come on. This is not cooperating. Okay. Then I'm going to put, this is Dollar Tree lace from the spool. Make sure you cut this at an angle so it doesn't ravel. And because I want lace to be the focus of this, I'm going to put 3. That finished up that spool. That spool's actually been around for a while, but I have another one. And then I wanted a little bit of brown in there, not a lot. So I've got this brown gingham. I got this at a craft warehouse sale. Okay, a couple of pieces of that. Then this is also from the Dollar Tree. It's kind of a little gray or brown, like ticking stripe. And then it just angle it. And I'm going to put in a couple of lengths of that. And then this came from that same craft sale I went to, warehouse sale. It's just lace with a little bit of black in it. I'm going to make sure I angle my end. 2 pieces of that. Now, not sure how this one's going to work. This is a burlap trim from Dollar Tree. This one I'm going to be very careful to cut in between the little knobs. Because that seems to be the sturdiest place for the weave on that. And then to finish it off, I'm going to add a little bit more of that creamy colored lace. Oh, and a couple pieces of this cording. No, I'm not. This cording is fraying too much. I'm not going to use that one. So we're going to go angle this out. 1, 2, and 1 in the middle. All right. There's all my pieces. going to take my pipe cleaner and right around the middle, bunch these things up, kind of try to pinch them together and accordion fold them a little bit. I like to fold it in half like this to make sure that my pipe cleaner is going in the middle, and I'm twisting that thing as tightly as I can. Fold the ribbon back open, try to find your center. Sometimes easier said than done. And then I'm going to trim off my ends of my pipe cleaner, and I'm going to fold them flat against the back of the bow. And then I'm going to grab my brown burlap piece, and I'm going to put it on the bottom, and I'm going to just tie a double knot here across the center. Actually, I'm going to wrap that around one more time. I want it to be kind of a pretty little center. Okay, so I've got that, and I'm going to go ahead and tie a little bow just to be the center of my lacy bow here. And angle the tails. That's not even. Okay. And then fluff it up so you can see all of the little bits and pieces. And that's my lacy junk bow. And it's going to go on here. But I need to get my hanger made before I glue that on so I can have a flat work surface. I just push everything on the floor and clean it up at the end of my crafting day. So on here I'm going to use the same string that I used on the other heart. Sorry. And I'm going to use 12 beads like I did on the other one. Feed my 12 beads onto my string. And then I'm going to glue down my string right on my pencil line. Put a little glue over the top of it just to kind of seal it in. Then I'm going to scoot my beads to the end. Figure out how long to make this string. Give it some slack. Snip that. Put some glue down on my line so it lines up with my little sticks. And put the string on the line. Push it into the glue. And then put some glue over the top. This will seal in all of the little fibers of the string. Keep it from raveling and coming undone. All right, there's that one. Now here's my bow, and normally I would put it like right there. Well, maybe I will put it right there. I'm going to trim these ribbons just a little bit. I'm going to put a little dot of glue under my bow here. Just a little dot because it keeps twisting and I want it to stay centered. And then I can put my bow right there coming off of the hanger where I wanted it in the first place. Put some glue on the back. Glue it down there at the end of the beads. Slide this into the pocket. And you can write a little message on the back of the card and give this to a loved one. That could be a Valentine. Okay. And then that's what you've got. The little butterflies, you got the embossed gold. This becomes a sturdy sign because you've used craft sticks on the back. And all right, there you have one Dollar Tree sign done two different ways using the same pad of paper. And they're both vintage, romantic. They can be used for Valentine's Day or just as a year-round hanging because they don't scream Valentine's Day. Let me know what you're thinking about this project in the comment section below. If you like this project, please give it a thumbs up. That helps my channel to grow. And let me know, do you like the loose sign or do you like the sturdy sign with the craft sticks? I'm anxious to hear what you have to say. This has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.